Hello everyone. So in today's lecture we are going to consider things changing with time. Therefore everything was static when we will still continue to assume the static case except we introduce the concept of current. Now current was charge in motion, so we could define current in a thin filament of conductor as a net charge that would have moved past a given point. So if you see some positive charge moving from left to right and some negative charge moving from right to left, then you have to find out net charge that has been transferred in the conductor across a given point, and that would correspond to current. And we introduce, instead of dealing with just filament current, we would deal with current in a region or space by going to current density. So we introduce current density to deal with the situation where current would specified on, for an example, a flat piece of conductor. The current would specified as current per unit width. So we have seen all these things, and strictly speaking, when we talk of current, we are no longer in static situation. The field that are generated would not be in static situation, and we actually never use that thing to find out what is electrostatic field that would generate. So we use current for a varying various of different reason, that is, it doesn't really, this lot is not applied to electrodynamics where things are changing with time. We have seen that you could have a case where a charge was initially maybe at rest, and then you apply an electric field E and charge begins to move. So if charge is this, then you applied an electric field moving from left to right, then this charge will begins to move from left to right. You know, it get accelerated like this and it just move from left to right, and if the charge was already moving in the left to right direction, and if you place an external field, I introduce external field, then it will not continue to move in left to right direction. Okay, and we know that at any point or for any charge that there is electric field, what is the force that is acting on that charge? The force acting on the charge is given by F is equals to QE, and where electric field is the field that we introduce by some mean. Okay, so if charge was actually moving in different direction of velocity and your electric field is not coinciding with that one, then there will be small amount of deflection, small or large depending on how strong your electric field is, but there would be deflection of electric field, so the path would be different. For example, if charge is moving from left to right and electric field is applied from top to bottom, then what happen is that at a point, for example, imagine there is velocity vector and this is electric field. Okay, that you are applying, and what happened is this charge that you have developed a certain component along electric field. Okay, there will be now two forces, one force because of kinetic energy and this field that I have applied, so there will be one force because of electric field. Okay, so I'm having one force of velocity and one is because of electric field. So there are two forces, and essentially it would get deflected, and if you keep looking at the path, would actually go and get deflected like this. So this would be the path that an electric field would take. So if velocity vector is different in the direction from field, but it is very important to know that any point along this path, the force acting on the charge because of electric field would always be in the direction of electric field. But it is very important. Okay, so in the exercise, do a small calculation to actually predict the path you will be able to see that the path depends on the velocity that is coming in and the electric field that would be coming in. But it is important to note that at any point on the path, the force on the charge would always be along the direction of electric field itself. Okay. So one effect we didn't mention about current, which is very intimating connected to what we are going to study now, is imagine that current carrying conductor. So this is current is along, let us say, z direction. Okay, and this is a current being carried around in the long thin conductor. Now I imagine to this conductor I placing a magnet with a face of north and south on this side. So you have a magnet which is placed on x axis and this is your y axis. So you have this current going along z direction, which I have taken along z. Now I am going to introduce magnetic field in such a way that the north pole pointing along z axis, and you keep it at a certain distance over here. Now what would happen when you have such a magnet introduced in the current carrying conductor? The thin wire would actually get, or this conducting wire would actually get deflected, and it would just experience a small amount of deflection. Depending upon how strong the magnet is, it would experience a deflection. But if you do not really put in a large magnet, you would actually see a very small amount of deflection along y-axis, this deflection. Okay, depending upon the strongness of the magnet. So you can, or there is no electric field introduced here, so there must be something that is happening from the magnet that is causing the wire to be deflected. Now what will happen? What will be the deflection? Will always be along y. Turn out that it wouldn't be always along y. For example, if I change the magnet orientation such that north would always pointing along z direction, that is parallel to the current, then there would not be any deflection. There are not complex, these are not complete experiment, but these are some quantitative ideas based on complete experiment done by the people over the last thousands years in studying magnetism. And the idea is that north pole is directed along x-axis, and in this case there will be a deflection on a wire along y-axis. If the north pole of magnet directed along x-axis, okay, then there is a deflection. If it is along z-axis, then there is no deflection. So in any intermediate case, that is, you would move around your magnet and direction, then the amount of deflection would also change. So there is some source acting on the current carrying wire which is actually pulling the charge in such a way that there are three vectors now. So there is one vector which is current direction, which you think as a charge. Okay, so that is pointing along x direction with a certain velocity v, or equivalently current direction or the current element direction which is along x axis. You have a vector okay, this or either two vectors. The effect would be essentially the same because q, v and ideal are same, both are representing the current. Okay, then the force, you have a force which is causing the wire to deflect, and finally there is something that is generating by the magnet, that is actually the north pole of the magnet is something that would also be considered as a vector because you would place the north pole along x axis. Okay, so there is something that is associated with the magnet. So there is some vector associated with the magnet. Let us call vector as B. Then it turns out that the source must be perpendicular to that containing both current element or the moving charge as well as this vector B. So this is interesting because we have not seen such vectors. We have not seen an action where force on the charge would result in direction that is completely perpendicular to the charge motion. So if you go back to electrostatic case, you would not see that the electrostatic case that you would not see that the force is in the direction of velocity and electric field. So we have not had an opportunity to discuss a conceptually the case where the force would be perpendicular to the both. We have seen in our vector analysis this concept under cross product of vectors, and we can capture all this by saying that the force experienced because of the presence of magnet, which are going to call as Fm, is equals to qv cross b, where v is the velocity and b is the direction in which north pole of the magnet is pointing, and it would be presumably give you some sort of field. So this probably is much more easier for us to imagine. You know, whenever you take a magnet and you look at your high school textbook, you would see that if you bring some iron filling around this one, so they would actually stick around something like this. So you have seen this kind of picture earlier and this orientation. So the fact that these iron would arrange themselves, indicating that there is some sort of lines coming out, some sort of lines that are coming out of magnet, and these lines are pretty much their way in which magnet would introduce the motion of iron particle, and these lines are called as, or because these lines vary with respect to the position, these lines are actually field. Okay, and these are called as magnetic field. So the idea of magnetic field, or in general the idea of field, was actually introduced by Faraday, where he formulates certain rule corresponding to the field lines. But the idea of field in some sense of having a reason of influence exists before Faraday as well. So going back to this, you have to introduce, or we have introduced a different agent which is responsible for deflection of current carrying wire in a given direction. So here we have written in terms of single charge moving with a velocity. So for a force that experienced by a single charge in the presence of magnet or magnetic field generated by magnet is qv cross b. In terms of current carrying wire, it would not be the full magnetic field, but the infinitely simple amount of magnetic field is equals to ideal cross b, assuming b is essentially constant. So this force on current carrying wire, the small infinitely symbol of the force on current carrying wire is equals to ideal, and the element or the differential line element times b, assuming that the current itself is not varying. In fact, because current is not a function of time, the field that are generated, see, this was a different case. So we assume that the current carrying wire, and there is a vector field b. Okay, so however it turns out, these current capable of generating a field of their own. So this field is the field that they are generating, and this field will not be changed with respect to time as long as current is not changing with respect to time, and these fields are called magnostatic fields. Okay, so the staticness is only the in terms of fact that magnetic field will not change with time. Current is also not changing with time, but to form that current, the charges are actually in motion. So there is some time dependent activity going on, but the net effect of the time dependent activity is such that the current is not changing with respect to time, and the fields that are generated are also not changing with time, giving you the magnostatic field and static with respect to time. So we have this law. If we want to consider this equation, Fm is equals to qv cross b. Now actually complete the force on the charge. So if I have a charge moving with a velocity v in a certain direction, then you have both electric as well as magnetic field. Okay, and then total force acting on a charge will be due to electric field and due to magnetic field. The force because of electric field will be QE, and the force because of magnetic field will be QV cross B, and the force law is known as Laurent force law. So get back to this DFM, and I'm going to remove this M here because in coming lecture we will discuss magnetic field and the force because of those magnetic field. So DFM is the infinite symbol of force on current carrying wire is actually given by ideal cross B. Of course, you immediately realize that you can't really have infinitable current. So you can't have a small amount of current that would be present, but rather than the current would actually has form a loop, because you can't just have an isolated piece of current. It means that the charge are getting generated and accumulated on the node, and we have just seen that such accumulation is not possible, at least not happening. So connect to certain generator or battery, and then it would complete the circuit. So this is actually a closed path for the current to be flowing, and we are assuming that the current is steady state or DC current, not varying with time, and we are considering force because of only a small portion of current carrying wire, and this portion is ideal. And then we found out what is the force. If there is one current carrying wire here, what is the force on this one? What on the another current carrying wire? It has to be another current carrying wire, and in order to experience this force, so what we are actually looking at is this force. So this is source and this is your test current or test current wire or a cable, and this is the force that we have seen. So this is force law that we have, and now we are interested in finding the vector field B, what it will be. And to get this vector B, we need to evoke what is called as Biot-Savart law. So we want to find magnetic field because there is some current carrying wire placed somewhere, and the current carrying wire is actually generating magnetic field. So how do I calculate that one? Based on certain experiment, it was found out that the magnetic field at any point in space near by current carrying wire is actually given by differential magnetic field is given by mu naught I dl bar prime into r hat 4 pi r square. So probably a picture would help here. Okay, so I have some circuit. I want to find out a current force because of small amount of current, and that is IDL. This small amount of piece is given by IDL prime, and it has certain orientation, and this circuit has an orientation and it is carrying a steady state current I. Of course, I am going to connect this one with some battery, and I am looking at magnetic field at some point over here in a space, or B field in some space, because we are going to soon see B is not magnetic field conventionally called. we will come to that. So this expression for B is actually given by, amount of infinitely small amount of vector B for a current element, and this is called as current element is IDL prime of vector element, and this field is inversely proportional to square of the distance, but magnetic field will be perpendicular to the vector. Okay, so this is my source point and this is my field point. So vector would actually be dl into r. Okay, and there is vector would be the direction that would be perpendicular to the plane that contain ideal as well as r. Okay, r is vector distance from the source ideal and the current element to the field point, where I am taking this as my source. So of course you would write saying that this is nonsense because I can't just isolate a piece of conducting wire. I can't do that. As I said, if I try to isolate piece of conductor, then must be charges accumulated at the node, and that is clearly not going to happen. So current has to be flow in a loop. Therefore the law that we have written in this way should actually be modified such that it apply to the entire current through the loop. So how do I do that? So simply integrate this one. Okay, so if this is ideal prime and you take one piece and then calculate the field because of that, and you take one more piece and calculate force because of that, and similarly all the pieces on the loop. I will complete the circuit by going back from one point to another point, and all point I would have actually calculated the contribution. After calculating the contribution, I would sum up them, but in a limit of small dl, the summation would be replaced by integral. So what do I have? Magnetic field at a point is given by closed line integral around C of this quantity. Now there is different version of the equation when you considering the region of space. In that case, the magnetic field region of space in the current, that is described by current density vector. Then you have integral over the current density vector. Okay, then it will be a surface. Because integral of current density over a surface will give me the corresponding current, the only catch here is that the surface must be open. You can't close surface, whereas the closed circuit must be, because closed circuit C. And also note a small difference we write down traditionally is the line element. Vector part of the line element is denoted with by making line element as prime, whereas J itself is a vector. Therefore we only have to consider the scalar form of the surface. So these two laws are called Biot-Savart law. Okay, actually they are derivable from another form, more general law called as Ampere law. We will discuss Ampere law later in the next lecture. So in this lecture the objective would be to try out to use this equation that we have developed, and these are called Biot-Savart law, to apply in different condition to find out magnetic field. So that what we would like to do now, before we go there are certain things that we need to mention here. So if I go back to dB is equals to mu naught I dl by r by 4 pi r square, you will notice two things. One is there, it is 1 by r square dependent, and 1 by r square dependence seems to be common everywhere. We saw 1 by r square dependence in gravity law, Newton's law of gravitation. We also see 1 by r square dependence in Coulomb's law. Now we are seeing this 1 by r square dependence in Biot-Savart law. So there is something interesting thing is that it is happening because of this 1 by r square. So what we are seeing here as well. So clearly the field will be stronger if you are closer to the current element. If you move away from the current element, you would be going as 1 by r square. The other thing that you have to see in here is that the vector dB is directed in a plane that is perpendicular to both ideal, the current element, and the unit vector along the direction is perpendicular to both ideal and current element, and the unit vector along the direction of current element to the point where you are all evaluating the magnetic field. Okay, so this is from the current element to the point where you are evaluating the magnetic field. So this is the cross product that we discussed. Okay, there is third thing that you have to see here is there is quantity called mu naught, and this quantity called mu naught, that the quantity mu naught is called as permeability of free space. I am assuming that there is no other magnetic field and we are doing everything outside the magnetic material. So this is called magnetic permeability of free space. So just like we had permittivity of free space denoted by epsilon naught, and this was given by some quantity which is approximately 9 into 10 to the power minus 12 Faraday per meter. We have permeability of free space which is denoted by 4 pi into 10 to the power minus 7 henries per meter. Again, you should suspect that just like epsilon naught was related to capacitance, you have mu naught that which would be related to inductance. You will be right. So when we that the inductance is measured in Henry and this mu naught is measured in Henry per meter. What about B itself? B here is where things get little interesting, because this B is called as magnetic field in most physics textbook. Most physicians call as magnetic field, and short form of us would also called as magnetic field. In engineering literature, this is called as magnetic induction or magnetic field density, just like vector D is the electric flux density. Let us now tell you how much of flux lines are coming out of per surface area. Here you have magnetic flux density indicating how many magnetic field lines would come out in a given surface area. So this is magnetic flux density and it is measured in some unit. We will discuss that one. This is actually related to measurement of another quantity that we have introduced later and discuss much of that is called as H. H is your magnetic field intensity or magnetic field for the short form. In most engineering literature, this is called magnetic field intensity or magnetic field itself, and it is measured in amperes per meter. And in free space, these vectors B and H are related to each other by a simple rule, just like D and E was related by epsilon naught in free space and material outside. In free space, B and H are related as BE is equals to mu naught H, where mu naught is measured in Henry per meter and magnetic field intensity is measured in amperes per meter. So B is measured as ampere Henry meter square. Thank God at least there is upper meter square. Here indicating some sort of density vector, which is what we have called as magnetic flux density. And instead of writing amperes Henry per meter square every time, we call this as ampere per Henry as a Weber per meter square. Okay, so we measure B in terms of Webers per meter square. Now instead of writing Webers per meter square, every time we denote this as unit Tesla, in honor of Tesla, the great one, of the great inventor of this last century. So we have discussed sufficient enough that we can jump right into example. So let us consider simple example, and this first example is that of infinite line or infinite line current placed on x-axis. So this was the line current that we discussed when introducing magnetic field concept. So we are going to discuss and find out what would be the magnetic field because of this infinite line charge. Okay, so we have x-axis, the current is actually carried along, the wire is carrying current I along the z-axis, and we need to find out magnetic field at some other point over here. Now without talking too much about symmetry of the problem, which is what we did like when we applied Coulomb's law, we didn't really think anything too much about symmetry initially. So we will not do that one here. So we will not think about symmetry, we will not talk about the problem, we will just apply Biot-Savart law and see what is the resulting field would be. So magnetic field is required at the point R. In terms of that, it would be nice for us to work in cylindrical coordinate for this case, because there is a line which is going along x-axis. So we are just looking to use the fact and say that we are going to work with cylindrical coordinate. So on the cylindrical coordinate, how to define vector r here? Vector r will be small r hat, okay, which is the radial direction along r. Okay, the height at which point is located, I am going to consider a small line segment which is at height z, okay, and has a height z prime and has a length of dz prime. Okay, so the current element here will be given by I dz prime, and this will be located at r. This will be located at r prime. Okay, and the source is located at z prime z hat. Okay, so clearly the vector r, which is in the form of current element and direction from current element to the field point, is vector r. This vector r, this is field point, and this vector r is given by r hat plus z prime z hat. Okay, what is the magnitude of that? Magnitude of this vector is r square plus z prime square under root, square root. And I also required the unit vector r, so unit vector r will be given by r divided by its magnitude. Now we are ready to apply Biot-Savart law. The magnetic field is given by mu naught 4 pi. So this is constant, so I am keeping it outside integral. Okay, and I am going to pull out that out from integral, and I am considering integral form from minus infinity to plus infinity, because that is where the current element is going. I is also constant, so I am going to remove I also out of the integral, and this integration is with respect to z, so I have z prime, because this current element is I z prime. Okay, So the vector element now, so this vector element now is along z axis. So id z prime, I begin a constant I, I'm moving this outside, this I outside of integral, and dz prime z hat cross the unit vector along r direction. Okay, so this is the unit vector along r direction. Unit vector along r direction is that unit vector from source to field is r hat plus z prime z hat divided by r. So it is that r vector divided by r magnitude, and in the law I have r square, that's why here I am having 3 by 2, that is magnitude. Okay, so this is something that you have already know, you have nomenclature this earlier also, very familiar to us. Now look at what is the inside here. Okay, so inside you are actually having a formidable integral, at least it seems that. To begin with, you have a cross product inside, and you have to see what happens to the individual cross product, which direction they would be pointing along. First we can immediately rule out second integral over here, because z hat, if I z hat into z hat, cross product of z hat into z hat would actually equals to 0, so this will not be there, therefore this is removed from integral. So now I left with only z hat cross r hat. So in which direction would it would be pass point? This is cylindrical coordinate. For cylindrical coordinate you are looking at z, which is vertically upward, and r, which is in this way of screw, must essentially rotate along phi direction. So you have z axis, you have radial distance r, so you rotate the screw, it would be moving along phi. Okay, so this phi would come outside because it is not integral of z. So phi would be always directed along the same direction. In another word, phi is constant with respect to integration, can be moved out of integral. R is also constant in this case because you are looking at particular point, therefore R is also constant. Only z prime is changing. So you actually can write down this mu naught phi is the direction, 4 pi this divided mu naught I divided by 4 pi, and there is r here. Okay, would be r square because of differential dz, because of differential dz coming out. So you have seen this sufficiently enough that I can write down the final answer without really showing up the step. I hope that you can fill in the step when you look at how we calculate that a line charge, we encounter the same integral in the electrostatic case. So you could apply that knowledge and do a simple calculation and show that this integral turn out to be 1 by 2 mu naught I by 2 pi r in the direction of phi. Okay, So magnetic flux density in the direction of phi varying only as 1 by r, not as 1 by r square. Now this varying of 1 by r for an infinite line charge should remain you for a variation of electric field also. 1 by r with respect to the infinite line charge density. So it is necessary, essentially the same sort of behavior when you have infinite line charge or infinite current involved. So if you want to sketch this one as a function of r, b as a function of r, it will be exponentially decreasing. So you will see that initially r is equals to 0 and this vector v will be blow up. The vector is actually along phi direction and then its magnitude keeps on decreasing 1 by r. Now it is interesting that you can actually draw this b phi, and you will see that if this is the current that is being carried out by infinite long conductor. For that, okay, so this is my B field, this is the current being carried out by infinite long conductor, then the B field would actually be located along phi direction. And let me use a different, I can't use different color here. So this is the field lines which is surrounding my current loop. Okay, so we have discussed sufficient enough that we can jump right into the next example. Okay, so we will see that example in our next lecture, and also we will discuss the concept of Ampere's